Welcome, Scorpio, to your June Moon Magic deep dive forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. The month of June has four key lunations, but right at the end of May, we had a powerful Sagittarius full moon, and that provides a backdrop energy for the first 2 weeks of this new month. I'm going to unpack each of those five lunations, but from a purely Scorpio perspective. The moon, very much about our emotions, our feelings, nurture, protectiveness, security, our homes, our families, is such an important part of our lives. And by the end of the video, you'll have a lunar perspective of what's upcoming around your energy, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So on the screen, Scorpio, is your event chart with that Sagittarius full moon. The moon in Sagittarius is very much a truth seeker and speaker. It likes a degree of personal space and also physical space too. So being in the second house, which can be to do with our values, our life foundations, but everyday money, that's where you may want to apply those freedom loving credentials. But on the other side of the heavens, the sun and the newly arrived Uranus, that's very much more about what we share. It can be our long-term financial situation. It can be where we want to be more entrepreneurial, but finding a balance between everyday finances and the future is the key. But to be honest, I think that's everything all of us are doing at the present time. So how will it play out for you? Well, Mars, your traditional ruler, angled to that position of the moon in a tense quincunx. So even if you're someone who's very committed to a relationship, you could even be rather attached to a particular lifestyle choice, even your financial choices too. Mars in your seventh house is telling you, if you're not quite happy with the status quo, to use the freedom loving energies of Sagittarius and the boundary that Mars in the seventh house can provide by being more outspoken about how you see it and what you want. And that is going to be important through the first 2 weeks. But if you are trying to juggle your finances quite acutely, just know that Venus, the planet of money, is in a tense right angle with Saturn, the planet of restriction, but in the sixth house of precision. So the more you can analyze things, cut down on any waste, look at all your renewals, try to squeeze more out of the assets you've got, the better it's going to be. But Venus in the ninth house, as it moves forwards this month, is in a very lovely part of your chart for exploring, perhaps traveling, doing things that maybe are a little bit more expensive. But Saturn's just asking to be mindful of focusing on what's really essential as we come into the new month. Now, your other ruler, Pluto, is in a stunning link with Uranus. So there's Pluto, the bottom of your chart, how you feel about things, very lunar. The position of Uranus in the eighth house, very scorpionic, deep evolution. But Uranus can attract us towards new opportunities, but it can also break down what's not working. So on this particular lunation at the start of the month, if there is someone you've been seeing and you're not really enjoying it, I think the combination of Mars, Uranus, and Pluto could see you needing to break free and assert your agency over the situation. That brings us to the first of the two quarter moons this month, Scorpio. It's on the 8th. It's in your sister water sign of Pisces, which can be delightful. It's the fifth house. The moon here can be warm, affectionate, and the moon in Pisces, very sensitive, but in a good way. But if there is that relationship you're unsure of, if there are any energies around control, leverage, jealousy, possessiveness, this is a quarter moon which is going to show it up. However, if you're enjoying a relationship, or you'd like to meet someone, this is a quarter moon that can just make you much more appreciative of what can be gained through intimacy. And you can see that Venus, not just the money planet, but also the relator, is heading into an exact conjunction with Jupiter on the 9th. So that really can be very lovely. So if you are traveling somewhere or you meet someone completely different, or you're chatting online, the potential for some real sparkle is very strong indeed. So I think on the whole, it can be quite a good quarter moon unless you're really up against it in a tense, highly charged personal relationship. Now, at the very heart of the month, we have an air new moon in Gemini. The moon and the sun completely combine, therefore, their mutual energies complement one another. But for you, it's the eighth house, which does have that echo of scorpionic energy. It can be about evolution, it can be about transformation, but it can be where we go deeper in, or it can be where we go out. It just depends on what's going on in your situation. But the intriguing thing is, as far as relationships are concerned, Venus has now moved out of Cancer and right to the top of your chart. So if you're single, your professional world through the last 2 weeks of this month could provide a clue of how you can meet someone, or it could be through a connection with someone at a further distance away, or who's very different in their background to you. But this collective here is intriguing because the moon doesn't really get being in Gemini. It's known as being in Peregrine. The moon prospers in water signs, perhaps apart from yours, where she's in her fall, but certainly in Cancer, Pisces, and loves being in Taurus in her exaltation. In an air sign, that's not really about how we feel, it's more about how we think. But I think you can think deep. Now, you have a talent for that anyway. But because Mars links the moon and the sun in a semi-sextile, but Jupiter links back to them in a semi-sextile, so Mars is linking brilliantly to Mercury and more broadly to Jupiter. Do you know, if there is something you're wanting to do that's more daring but brilliant in terms of marshalling your long-term resources, what a spectacularly positive new moon for you to set your intentions to improve what's coming into your world, whether it is romantic attraction or it is in a financial context. That brings us to the quarter moon of the 21st. The intriguing thing is the sun moves that day into your sister water sign of Cancer, ushering in cardinal quadrant 2, the second 13-week period of the Western tropical calendar. And for you, a great opportunity to be much more outgoing and think of travel, but think also of broadening your connections generally. But what happens almost immediately is the sun and the moon are in a quarter moon. So if there is anything you're not quite happy with at that part of the month, the chances are that it could get amplified. You can feel much more sensitive. Be careful who you hang around with at that part of the month. Now, ironically, Chiron moved on the 19th into your sector of relating and forges a lovely link to the position of the sun. So if you did meet someone new and fresh who you really liked, just know that on that particular day, Mercury's heading towards Jupiter. It goes into a retrograde on the 29th, but it's really going to reward Jupiter. So Jupiter will have been blessed by Venus and almost by Mercury by the end of the month. And that gives you a lot of chance to get to the truth of all sorts of situations. But if you are trying to be more enterprising, it helps you to widen your lens. If you're if you have your own channel or you're publishing, this is fantastic. But it just means that whatever you want to do that's more adventurous and daring, just understand what your vulnerabilities and fears might be about that, with the moon sheltered in that 12th house. That brings us to the final lunation of the month, Scorpio, which is in for you your third house, which is a bit ironic because the moon's actually in the earthy Capricorn, where it's very cautious. The third house is about quick communication. On the other side of the heavens, the planet which rules quick communications goes into a retrograde that very day, the 29th. But Mars, your ruler, moved the day before into the sign of Gemini, and then through the last few days of the month links with Uranus. So you can see that there. So if you are footloose and fancy free, you could have a dramatic connection with someone as the celestial curtain comes down on this month. And with Jupiter moving on from Cancer after being there for 13 months and climbing into the sign of Leo, that connection with someone professionally is highly possible. But if there is someone you encounter, it might not be a long lasting relationship, but it might be very hard to ignore. So a big compulsive attraction as possible at the end of the month. However, that moon position is in the third house, how we think on an everyday basis, and the sun's asking you to perhaps get beyond that, see that big picture, the wider canvas of life. So if there is something that's a little bit out of kilter, perhaps to do with your home, property can be very Capricornian, and you need to talk to someone, a contractor or something. And with Mercury going retrograde that day, it isn't quite happening. That could prove to be rather frustrating. But remember, I shared with you that Venus and Saturn were in a squabble at the start of this month, and actually end this month in a great alliance. Saturn in that sixth house linking to Venus in a trine. So if there is a job you're applying for, your enthusiasm, preparedness to travel, see the big picture, together with your drive and passion, precision, but also charm, could be a winning formula as this month draws to a close. So, to summarize broadly the month of June from a lunar perspective, the first two-thirds of the month for you personally, Scorpio, is very much about what can transform in your life, and that can feel very intense. But if anyone can deal with that, it's you. The last 10 days of the month sees things really open up, but there is the potential for that all through this month. So if you do feel a bit stuck at times, just think about what's really truthful. It may be a very unfashionable trend because we live in a world where everything's just so distorted around reality. But if you are unsure at any point, take it back to how it feels, of course, but also, does it really feel truthful? Because I think being authentic is a big part of Scorpio energy that doesn't really get reported on. Yes, you're watching everything very intensely, and not everyone can deal with that, but usually it comes from a point of not liking any BS. Now, I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. But just to say, I've reduced the price of my personal horoscope reports. Now, they were for many years buy two, get 30% off. Because of the aforementioned cost of living increases, it's now buy one, get three. So the one you pay for is your life roadmap report. The one that you get free, or the two you get three, is your 12 months transit, but also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your June monthly video, please check that out. Your Mars in Taurus 6-week video, please check that out. If you would like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be an absolute pleasure. Please see my testimonials below. I did say recently that I'd worked on every continent, and someone said, Antarctica? And I said, yes, well, that's a cool idea, but no. So fair play. Uh, but if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fired to your device each morning for your early day celestial pit stop, please see that below too. So to summarize, energy. As we start this month, Saturn and Neptune continue in that sixth house. So it is important to be as virtuous as possible around what you eat and drink to maintain your vitality in the best way possible. But you could find yourself, as this month goes on, being more adventurous, wanting to get into the great outdoors and be more active. So that's really good. As far as your professional situation is concerned, Venus moving on the 13th into the most visible part of your chart suggests that charm can get you everywhere. Even if you may see that as a bit corny and not very cool, it's important to actually uh, politeness and awareness to what people want is not being uncool, it's actually being lovely. So if you can lean into what's required from you in a way which feels easygoing, that's definitely going to be something that people are attracted to. Also, if you're prepared to learn new skills, go on a course, retrain, travel for your job, or relocate, all of those things are going to bless your prospects. When it comes to your financial situation, because there's a lot of energy right from the off, it could be a case of having to balance the books. But you saw by the end of the month, Venus, the planet of money, is in a very strong link with the planet of structure, Saturn. So the harder you work and the more you attune to what's required, the more successful your finances can be. But I think it could be a month where you can tease out some new economies. But if you're wanting to be more entrepreneurial, that's a very positive new moon in Gemini at its very heart. Relationships, while Chiron moves into your sector of relating on the 19th of this month, but Mars, your ruler, is in your sector of relating through to the 28th. So Mars really can encourage you to be more go-getting in connecting. If you're in a relationship where you're not quite sure, I think that seeking out the truth of the situation is going to be very important to guide you. The moon, however, of course, is how it all feels. We can never go wrong if we're tuning into that inner voice. So have a great June, Scorpio. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon.